Hello, my name is Adam, and in these videos we're going to look through in more detail the 7 solutions to why I can't speak in English. And we're going to look at the first one today, which is fishing with no hook. What is this? This is where fishing with no hook, your brain seems to go blank. So you're trying, the solution is going to be looking to kind of hook into your ideas and be able to express them. We're going to talk about how you could achieve that. Okay, so let's talk about the problem here. So the student is not able to physically express themselves. There could be the sensation they have nothing to say, but it's just as probable that their ideas can be made to exist in English. So their brain goes blank. Okay, so here you've got the feeling that you've got some ideas, you don't know how to get hold of them. Okay, and you feel that your brain is blank, but it's not really. So in classes, the students kind of force themselves to speak, and if they do succeed, even then they are speaking slowly. And in group classes, they are a little bit too slow to express themselves compared to the speed that a flowing conversation requires. So this is part of the problem here. They're either really trying to force themselves, or if they can't force themselves, they're just a bit too slow. Okay. Now, something to consider here is that language is not only ideas. So when we speak, we do not just list our ideas, meaning we do not say, yes, pasta, no, tomatoes, lots. Those words are just the basic information that you have that you want to communicate. But it's funny, in the sense strange, that sometimes we only really understand our ideas. So we have these ideas we have, but we don't really understand them until we actually say them out loud. So it's in the expressing of the idea that we understand even what we're feeling. Okay. So we knew the idea, but these ideas arrive so fast that are almost, in a way, our ears are kind of learning them from our mouth. Okay, we're kind of learning what we're thinking. This kind of moment of expression. But so if you think about this, so the sensation of your brain going blank is also because you haven't heard yourself speak. This verbalization of ideas can also be in silence, okay, internally in your brain. But until you verbalize them some way, that's speaking or thinking, you're actually unsure about your thoughts. You feel that they're coming. You feel as an emotion you have them. There's something you want to say, but you don't know exactly how you're going to say it yet. This is true in your native language, more so in English. So you either have to really force yourself, or often people don't arrive there. They wait. They're trying to think. They're trying to grab hold of it, but they just can't get it. So now, this seems like an impossible problem to solve. So I need to hear my thoughts to say my thoughts, so that I can hear my thoughts. This seems like an impossible loop to get started, until we remember that language is not just our ideas. There's more to language than just the core information that we're trying to express. So the second content of language is the structure and phrases around our ideas. Now, this could be up to about 50% of spoken language and written language as well, can be actually not information, but the way that we present and move between ideas. This language does not itself have the ideas you want to express, although it can have information as well. So going back to yes, pasta, no, tomato, lots. Well, the person may begin with a phrase like, well, I would like some pasta, yes, or could I have some pasta, or even, I would love, pasta, please, before continuing, yes, I am hungry, etc. So think about some difficult or strange questions. For example, are you really happy? Who was your favorite teacher when you were 8? What will the world be like in 100 years? Now, instinctively, the most common way to begin an answer is probably with some starting language. For example, well, let me see. I think, yes, I am happy. Yes, yes. When I was 8, maybe, perhaps it was 100 years. Oh, I have no idea. I guess we would probably all be flying. The starting language here is the way to access your ideas. A common problem for students who cannot easily start to answer questions or speak is that they do not have these starting phrases. They are trying to start talking, but without really learning these phrases. They are fishing with no hook, in the sense they are trying to catch their ideas, but the brain needs them to start talking first. So the great news is that these phrases we use to trigger or catch thoughts are everywhere, but the student has probably never really studied them. They've studied grammar and adjectives, etc., but not the way that we start our turns. A turn is your turn in speaking. The hundreds of expressions that we automatically use to allow us to get close enough to our vague ideas in order to express them. Okay, so it's interesting that when we try and grab these ideas, we do know something about the idea. For example, we know that we are a positive idea, or we know that we are negative about it. We know that we kind of disagree, or we know that we're about to say something complicated or controversial. And in fact, these phrases, we can often hear them. Okay, so things like, oh, well, for example, neutral ones like, well, I guess, if I think about it, then, well, who, me? Well, I wonder if you could. Well, on the one hand, is this. So this is someone who knows they're going to say two different points. Let me think for a second, etc., etc. Or if we know we're going to be controversial, we say, well, this might sound controversial, but. Or if we know something's going to be complicated, yeah, this is not easy to explain, but let me try. All these phrases express our kind of initial emotion and then allow us access into it, allow us, the brain, then to hook onto the idea and carry on talking. So what are going to be the solutions then for fishing with no hook? Well, if you think about it, like I'm now, in a roundabout way, without, I guess, talking too much about it, the solution is for the student to start to copy the very, very useful phrases that we use to start talking and access our thinking. There's no need for the student to invent this language, by the way. It is some of the most common spoken and written language available. Native speakers of all levels use this language. A problem is that many textbooks don't give enough emphasis to this important vocabulary set. So, and exercises are rarely available, really. They just tell you, oh, just start talking, or tell me about your family. Immediately they say, focus on the information. I want you to tell me this in this way. Also, this language is actually not used as much in written formats, unless it's very informal, possibly in a story as well. So the story might want to do, or if the person writing the book in a kind of a modern way is taking a very relaxed way of introducing their ideas. So all this means it is not produced by students in class either for feedback from their teachers very often at all. So the student doesn't get much, apart from doesn't get much chance to copy it or isn't given enough information about it, the teachers aren't focused on it either to give them feedback about how they did. So what could you do then? So there are two main issues facing students. The first is, where do I find these words? And secondly, how do I practice them? Let's look at both problems. So how to find words and phrases. Real conversations. So a problem here is that this type of language is not often used in written form, although it's possible, very possible. The most common sources really would be transcripts, especially interviews that are unplanned. So you're going to try and find interviews online, perhaps. Celebrity interviews are not always great because they have a good idea of the questions they are going to be asked, so their answers are not always spontaneous. So consider street interviews or news programs or investigative journalists talking to politicians or these things where things are not planned. The next thing is you might find a lot in written language is actual linking language. So here there can be useful phrases in written language, in books, in presentations, etc. There are many cases of people who use linking language to move between different ideas, and many of these expressions are valid for introducing into your own speech. Another option is film and TV language. So while most of a film or TV script does not have the characters thinking in the moment, and the dialogue is what we call tight, there's no extra words, there will be scenes where characters are written as thinking in the moment, and this language could also be copied. Finally, use your native language. So when you're speaking, think about the phrases you naturally use in your own language and find an equivalent phrase in English. This could be a great opportunity to use programs like ChatGPT to you write down what you say and then ask them what is the translation, or literally, or just search on the internet for translations of common phrases. And then begin to use these phrases when you start speaking in English. I really like focusing on using your native language because these are expressions you use yourself. Okay, you don't have to start using a new phrase. If you always use "on the other hand" in Italian, or if you always begin things like, well, let me think about that in Russian, well, use these phrases in English. This is part of your character, your personality, of your communication style. So how to use these phrases in English? What would you do with them? Well, first, you could use a flashcard system. So this is where you keep things fresh and you would revise these words and keep them front of mind. Another option is in class, every time you are about to speak, aim to use one of these first few words. Aim to do that. Think about using 3 new phrases each class, for example. One idea here could be not to worry too much at the beginning if the phrase is perfect for what you're about to say. And the idea is just to start to engage your brain verbally. Is this helping you with your problem? Do you feel the next step is getting a bit easier? Another option is if you keep a diary or if you write in forums on the internet, then try to use a starting phrase too. Just force yourself to say a phrase first when you write phrases down, even if you don't really need to. Okay, you will notice on forums how many people start their own posts with such phrases as they do out of habit. Always, like almost in a way, also helping the listener understand what they're about to say. Finally, another option to help to practice is interview yourself. Read a question to yourself and just start the answer with one of these phrases that you want. Get used to just starting to speak, and then worry what will happen next afterwards. Okay, that's the end of the fishing with no hook in the first in the series. The second one is jumping and not dancing, and we'll have a look at that in the following video.